Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and colleagues. It's a pleasure to welcome you at the fifth online discussion of the CLEAR team. Today's topic will be leading the transformation. And I will guide you through the details of the discussion today. We will give you a brief overview of the four previous discussions that we had. We will give you a summary of the key messages that we crystallized out of the discussions, and we have grouped them into key areas that we will present. We will then have a discussion and, if possible, an agreement on the key areas, and we will ask you for this if we have put it in the right way, if we forgot something, or if something needs to be added. And we will have a discussion on future possible activities. We have some ideas that we would like to present. That will be summarized into next steps, and then we will close our series of 5 discussions. The first 2 elements will be presented by me, and I will hand them over to François Ballesteros, and the discussion items and next steps will be conducted by Gudrun Held. So, let me come back to the beginning of the CLEAR team discussion. The CLEAR team, comprised of Gudrun Held, François Ballesteros, and myself, Günther Martis, we started early this year with building up a discussion on how to provide a good path to a new sustainable future. And it was visible that we need something to do in order to have a better and a more resilient society. We started to create an idea of a series of discussions, and absolutely the COVID-19 pandemic crisis focused our views immediately on what would be the work and the life after the pandemic. In March, we were still thinking that the pandemic would be over pretty soon and we would manage our life then a lot better in a different way. So we started with that. We also, at the same time, found that over the last years, specifically the technology disruption has forced us to think completely different and to rethink our ways of working and living. One of the biggest challenges that our society has, and this is not only since yesterday, if we go back, this is already for the last 30 years, is the environmental issue. And we have in Europe the European Green Deal, which is actually a role model or a fantastic exercise, a fantastic project by the European Union to make Europe greener and to make our life more sustainable and also environmentally sustainable. This, we think, will end up in a kind of new society. And we have discussed last week, actually on October 23rd, how this new society could look like. And today, we are in the last discussion, leading the transformation. So, what we have done actually, we have looked at the 4 topics that we have discussed. And we wanted to take out the basic elements of the excellent discussions, of the contributors. We had fantastic speakers at each session. And we tried to summarize all this. Our main findings, if I can say it in a very brief way, are the following. Many topics are interlinked. We know that already for many, many years, but for the time being, we have been more or less working or looking at the topics in a kind of silo way. What we need is a more systemic approach, a kind of helicopter view, a view where we clearly see the interlink. When we touch the net on one end, it will move on the other end. We all know that. That's not new. But if we want to have a truly sustainable future, we would need to go out of our silo view. If we think and continue to think and act in boxes and silos and in isolation, our will to create a new future will definitely fail. So, what are the basic findings that we have done? So what we crystallized out of the discussion is basically So what the COVID-19 crisis also taught us. So we saw that the problems that are now evident, they existed already a long time before the COVID-19 crisis. But the crisis made these cracks visible and severely visible. And it is now impossible to just take everything and put it under the carpet and to step over and to do business as usual. This is now a time where we definitely cannot any longer afford to do that. The COVID-19 crisis, in our view, and in the view of all the contributors to our discussions, is definitely a wake-up call. We need to act. We need to act, and we need to do it now. It's actually 5 minutes past 12. It's not 5 minutes before 12. It's 5 minutes past 12. There is a need to act. And in order to act, we need also a clear vision for a new sustainable future. Again, this is not a silo view. This is a total view, a holistic view. This vision must be a holistic view of any aspects of our society, of our life, and of our work. What we have seen is a lot of fear and a lot of split also in our society. Fear changes relationships. Fear hampers productivity. Fear can bring out the best and the worst in people. So there is an urgent need that we reduce the fear, that we build up trust. And with this trust, we also can build up crisis resilience. If we see that we are strong, that we can shape it, that we can make it, and that we trust in ourselves, then we can go ahead with a new way, build a new society. What we have seen in the past is that the top-down approach doesn't always work well. One short example I will give is the Single European Sky, but I will stop here. So what we need to do is we need to look at the myriad of initiatives which are already existing. And there are initiatives, small initiatives, local initiatives, regional initiatives, and also global initiatives. So we need to bring this all together. So the balance between top-down and bottom-up is probably that, what we need to look deeper into that. And of course, all the initiatives and the result of that need to be coordinated, and a coordinated collaboration is vital. To have a good idea, to spread it out here and there, may be good in that area, but it doesn't help in other areas. So we have to collaborate together. A very essential element is that we found out a change in mindset is essential. And this is really a heavy, heavy subject. And the mindset starts with education. We saw also that a new leadership is key. A leadership which is not only pushing forward to maximize the profit, but is also a leadership which has really a very high social competency. So the individuum, the individual person, the spirit of the people is considered in a much better way. In a summary, we found out through all the discussions that we need a new social contract. We need to go away from the egocentric and profit-centric approach and really to look into the benefits for the society and for the individuals of the society in its entirety. Well, this was so far the main point, and I will hand now over to François Ballesteros, who will come up and present the key areas in a more detailed way. And with that, I have the pleasure to hand over to François Ballesteros. François, please.
Thank you very much, Gunther, for your kind words and for your very good introduction. And hello to all participants to be with us this afternoon. Thank you very much. I will share my screen now. Okay, here we go. Yes, we saw that the first thing which is very important here, very key, is the mindset. And the mindset to us is composed by the values and ethics. We are thinking about some key values such as respect, trust, solidarity, opening, inclusion, responsibility, and so on. So, and human being should be at the heart of our future. The second thing is to have an holistic view, a broader view encompassing economic, social, ecological, ethical, justice, health, well-being. Yeah, and a vision is needed because without a vision, we go nowhere. So, for instance, the Paris Agreement goal fixes the raise of the global warming to up to 1.5 degree centigrade. Or, for instance, everybody should have access to food and water. So these are clear visions about the future. The systemic approach is something which is unavoidable because a change in an element of the system will lead to changes in all the others. So what we have to do is that each time we should analyze, assess the context in which the developments are taking place. We found as well that the circular economy is an option because its aim is to have no waste at the end of the product, as the life of the product will be extended without toxins. So it's a type of economy that works in a cycle, and at the end, it's an economy which is not doing pollution. So education is the basis of everything. So for each human being in the world is entitled to have. It is also a value. So individual and collective society responsibility, what do we mean by this? It means that each institution, each company, each organization, each trade union, each NGO, and each of us are responsible for our society, for our future. So if I take an individual person, and if this person throws away his or her plastic bottle of water and threw away in the ocean or on the street, this person should know that he or she is polluting our planet. But if I buy a plastic bottle of water in a supermarket, for instance, I should also know that this bottle is done with petrol. This is the issue of responsibility. And as an institution, as a political body, if I take an initiative only to favor economy, of course, there are questions behind this about the ethical, about the social, about the ecological, and so on. So we should be responsible about our act, our attitude. So let's go to the next slide, the sustainable development. We are today in a neoliberal, capitalistic economy, even if this economy contains socio-economic factors. But the sustainable development is much bigger holistic view of the future. It's not only economy which counts based on profit. It counts the future of the planet. So the well-being of the people is, of course, its goal. Human rights, sustainable goals, and so on. This is very quick. Just a moment, I drink a glass of water. Yeah, each individual must have equal access to education, to food, water, healthcare, and so on. The social dimension and the new ways of working. This is also something which is updated today, and new ways. So we should also consider that a new manner of working is developing today. It's not new, but today with the COVID there is an acceleration. And so we are in an industrial, we come from an industrial revolution, and today we are in the economy 4.0. So the offices are also evolving very quickly. So there are risks, of course, but there are also opportunities. So jobs, social rights, working conditions, trade union rights, all these issues and others should be defended. But also they are evolving. So new manners, new ways of seeing this dimension is also important without losing the fundamental rights. The idea behind this is that no one should stay behind. And for this, a new social contract is needed at all levels. Ecological living, so COVID helped us to stop a little bit, but also to think a little bit about our way of living and what we want for the future, as there is no planet B. And all of this is about our destiny. So green business models, it's also somewhere a new approach, not new because we are not discovering this today, of course, but it's not easy to change because jobs are at stake. However, if we carry on producing like in the 50s, nothing will move. So somewhere we should begin to have a new way of producing. And this is also, the policymakers should also give the framework for this, helping to make this transformation. And in that case, innovation is key because innovation is also pushing much more research and development and should support the global challenges and changes. So combined efforts between public and private should help companies to make the changes, and new partnership should be developed. In addition, solidarity with developing countries is also something that everybody should consider. Technology, no need to say that our lives will be impacted much more tomorrow than today by automation, even if today is already present on a large scale. But what are the technologies that are beneficial for the human beings and for the planet? This is something that we should also take into account. Not everything is good. And the role of the ethics will be crucial here. Huh? So I will go now to the next slide. Okay, institutional regulatory framework. Okay, we put democracy at the heart of the process, of course, but not only the parliamentarian democracy that we are used to, but also direct democracy, because tomorrow we think that the democracy should evolve from a strict parliamentarian to a mixed system, parliamentarian, and much more direct than today. And direct is not only going on the street, which is also part of the movement, but it's also not only as well to create a committee of youth, a committee of refugees, a committee of LGBT, and so on. No, it's also that all categories of people, of citizens, have their word inside of the process. And this is something where we need to also to reinvent the democracy. And therefore, the governance, the justice, the executive power, is important to see how they act, how they proceed, how they what they do with the funding, the budget, and so on. It's very crucial that all citizens take care of the budget of the country, a budget of a company, the budget of an organization, because the budget favor or not some issues. And so that's why this approach is very important. But at all levels, local, national, regional, global, the decision makers, they have to develop policies which go to orientation, which is the sustainable development, favoring, for instance, green economy, fair and decent jobs, equality, the fundamental human rights, the development of population, also the added value, also that everybody grows inside of the society, and so on and so on.
Thank you very much, Günther, and thank you very much, François. I would like to thank all the participants in today's session for sharing their ideas, their recommendations, and in particular for being so open during the discussion. It is now my great pleasure to present the short summary of today's discussion. It was suggested and agreed to add education as a fourth and separate area to the three clusters: the mindset, sustainable development, and institutional regulatory framework. Education was considered key, as the change of mindset really starts with education, but it was also agreed, and that had already been discussed during the previous sessions, that we need a different and new approach to education. But this approach actually takes a lot of time that we don't have, because we have to start now. And we have to make sure that all the leaders and decision makers are open to change, and that they not only support it, but that they will also drive that change. And the role and scope of education needs to change. We have to move from educating specialized elites to making education accessible to everybody and everywhere. But how can we enrich education? That was, one of the biggest questions, because education has to become a valued good again. So with education, we also have to partially unlearn to change current behavior. And it was discussed that we should take advantage of our cultural differences and bring also old knowledge up front. For example, circular economy is actually quite old. So this started a philosophical discussion on when education actually starts. So it actually starts before the child is born. And sometimes, the change of mindset needs a revolution. So starting with grassroots movements is actually a good idea. So we need to rethink our concept of values in our relationships, in society, and in business. Things that we create should be valued and not just used and then thrown away. So education is important, it is key, but we also need to include awareness building and trust building in the equation, because trust is very, very important. I think we have all seen during that pandemic that there was a lot of fear. So fear can either mobilize or it can paralyze. So that's why we need strong and trustworthy leaders, because people need to believe what they're saying. We're all in a time where there's a lot of uncertainty, but if our leaders are trustworthy, then it makes life a lot easier for all of us. So we need to give people a vision and strategies to get them on board. So they need to be involved. It's not just that the leaders say, here is your vision, here is your strategy. No, they need to be involved in order to make sure that everybody is on board and will be part of the implementation, will be part of shaping and building that new sustainable future. So we need people who are rooted in their environment, where they feel at home and they also know who they are, but they need to be open to other ideas and to new ideas and areas and ways of thinking. So this brings us to the political process that needs to evolve as well. But this, again, takes time. So in order to speed up the process, we're very thankful for the young people, the young activists, and we need them to push the legislators. We need them to push the decision makers and to articulate what they want their future to look like, because they will be part of the process of creating and shaping this new future. And it's a true challenge, but we need more balance, and we need more collaboration and less competition. So the young activists and the policymakers, business people, everybody has to work together. So we need balance in economy and health and well-being, and of course, all social aspects. So a lot of today's problems are a result of existing inequalities, and that has also been mentioned again and again in our previous sessions. So there is a lot of knowledge, there are a lot of goods, a lot of products, a lot of education around this world or in this world, but the distribution is an issue. So we didn't only look at the negative side of things, because there are also a lot of good movements, a lot of good things that are happening, a lot of positive things that are happening. So it would be a good idea to start making a list, what works well, and to build on that. So there was a joint agreement at the end that we must not waste this global COVID-19 crisis, and all stakeholders need to join forces and act now. So this brings me to the last slide, and I would like to thank all the speakers in our 4 sessions on COVID life after the work life after COVID-19, Peter Turnbull, Esther Lynch, and Stefan Kober. Technical disruption, Lionel Fulton, Livia Speer, and Amit Yudan. The European Green Deal, Linus Steinmetz, Tom Delieu, and Damian Meadows, and the New Society, Frank Morales, Dr. Gordana Kirans, and Dr. David Uribe. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your valuable contributions, and thank you very much for your efforts to continue working with us in the future. Thank you.